Hello, my name is Grant Bolabaz, and today I'll be talking about David Carson and how his unconventional typographic style, later known as grunge, revolutionized the graphic design industry of the 1990s. Today, I will examine how Carson's ability to take risks, his ambition, and how developing his grunge aesthetic paved his career in the graphic design industry. Carson was born in 1954 on September 8th in Corpus Christi, Texas. He studied sociology at San Diego State, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree. He then became a high school teacher in California at age 26. In 1980, he attended a 2-week commercial design course at the University of Arizona, and from there, the rest is history. He found this is so intriguing, he re-enrolled into the Oregon College of Commercial Art to study graphic design specifically. But in his earlier years, design was not at the forefront of his priorities. He became a world-renowned surfer, ranking 9th on the planet in 1989. Although surfing didn't directly relate to his origins in art, it opened the necessary doors to jumpstart his career in graphic design because he would later work for surfing-related organizations. Carson's first industry job was covering surfer interests for a magazine called Self and Musician. Here, he would get his feet wet for the industry and accept his eagerness to push boundaries. His next industry was the lead art director in 1984 for Trans World Skateboarding magazine. Here, they let Carson have creative freedom to experiment and take risks, designing their magazine covers for the next 4 years. After Trans World, he landed a job at Beach Culture magazine as the lead art director, and just after 6 issues published, the magazine went under, but Carson had already won 150 awards for those covers. In 1992, Carson's work caught the eye of Marvin Scott Jarrett, who was the publisher for the alternative magazine Ray Gun. Carson was hired as the lead art director and tripled the magazine's total circulation within the 3 years he was director. After leaving Ray Gun, he established his own firm, David Carson's Design. Since then, he's developed abstract books titled The End of Print, Second Sight, Photographics, and Trek, leading to an AIGA medal in 2014, which is his most recent accomplishment. His designs caught the attention of the younger audience as it aligned with the countercultural punk and skating movement of the 1990s. Carson embodies this free-spirited, anti-establishment culture through providing a physical representation of the movement via graphic design, and it was all about being loud, bold, and rebellious. His technique is a modern take on art data because its main objective is to draw the attention of the consumer. Carson neglects the use of balance and unity techniques used in traditional graphic design because he wanted to stray away from the organization and simplicity. He uses color elements such as hue and contrast to either neutralize his designs so they blend in an abstract fashion, or uses high contrast to highlight specific parts of the design. He overlays various images and accompanies them with unique typography in which he intricately manipulates individual letters to express the message with intentional emotion. Now, looking at Carson's individual works, this is a piece from his 27th issue of Ray Gun in 1995 and portrays his iconic style. He uses a sans serif typeface that is gridless but follows a symmetrical design. The text runs off either side of the page, and the only bold-faced text are the 2 titles Ray Gun and Bjork. The woman's face is barely visible, but the face can be made up after long examination. The image and the text correspond because they both have a message, but they are purposely disguised. This issue of the magazine is about Bjork, but Carson removed the B and reversed the R to insinuate chaos and disorder. He uses the 2 colors with high contrast, black and white, to make the woman's face and text stand out from the background. Now, controversy surrounded Carson when his work gained popularity because of individuals' personal perspectives. The non-believers at the time thought design needed to follow the codes of the craft and saw Carson's work as messy. But over the course of time, the historical perspective would shape people's personal perspectives. Because his art was used to describe the art culture of the 90s, people decided to align themselves because they saw it as a relation of self-expression. Now, this next cover is also from Ray Gun and exhibits a portion of an individual with texts that appear to be musicians' names littered throughout the cover. It uses low color contrast to blend the image, background, and text together. The idea behind this piece is to allow the composition to supply the message. Again, Carson is insinuating chaos and disorder by not following design mechanics such as unity. The earth tone background mixed with the pop red allows for the viewer to have something to look at throughout the cover. The overall tone is exciting, yet calm, due to the mix of colors in composition. Now Carson saw his craft with a critical perspective, as messages can still be portrayed without direct verbal or written communication. This is seen by the band names on the cover, implying their relevance to that edition of the magazine. Critics didn't take too kindly to this method and labeled his work as confusing and inefficient. Now the piece I decided to riff was a cover Carson did for The Drum in 2017. I decided to keep the colors consistent because he did a great job of utilizing primary colors. He uses these colors in contrast with the simple figures and shapes to create an appealing ensemble of shapes. I kept the format the same because I thought the placement of these shapes were genius and that there's an element of balance within the abstract confusion. Although the message isn't clear, I think his addition of coordinates added elements of his unique typography. I think the main difference between both of our pieces is the use and weight of the white lines. Now in Carson's, these lines are faint and almost look like the stitching within a jean, but I made the lines heavier, which I thought separated the shapes and added a little classic Carson touch. Because this is a more modern piece, I thought it should also try to mimic elements of his past. I also edited the drum logo similar to how he did, but I changed the typeface because I thought this one would add a simpler touch with less ridges. Lastly, I changed the colors and pattern of the blue on the legs because I thought it would create a more abstract pattern and less of a progression. Now David Carson revolutionized the graphic design industry by normalizing abstract art and visual communication. He wanted to prove that messages could still be conveyed without traditional communicating methods. The punk and skateboarding movements of the 90s also latched onto his art, which then became a visual embodiment of that culture. He continues to exceed the boundaries of the industry by defying critics' opinions through creating his own style. Lastly, Carson changed the perception of visual communication and gave a voice to those who wanted to succeed outside the box.